Hello everyone, welcome back to my GH Spoiler channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. General Hospital, Sunday, March 8th, 2026. Delilah finally reveals who fathered her secret child. Port Charles is shaking. After 18 months of whispered rumors, tearful denials, and one very suspicious DNA test that mysteriously went missing from the hospital lab, Sunday's explosive full episode of General Hospital delivered the kind of gut-punch confession that sends fan bases into full meltdown mode and Twitter straight into cardiac arrest. Buckle up, because everything you thought you knew about Delilah Hargrove just changed forever. The setup, a secret too big to keep. For over a year, Delilah Hargrove, the fiercely independent cardiologist who arrived in Port Charles under a cloud of mystery last spring, has been raising baby Caden alone. She told anyone who dared ask that the father was out of the picture. She told her sister, Renata, that it was someone from her past. She told her therapist in a session that was, scandalously, somehow overheard by orderly Marcus Webb, that he doesn't even know. Well, he knows now. Sunday's episode opened on a gray Port Charles morning, rain hammering the windows of General Hospital's fourth-floor corridor. Delilah was rushing toward the NICU, baby Caden in her arms, when the elevator doors slid open and out stepped Dr. Roman Ashworth, the man she had clearly been hoping never to see again. The confrontation that broke the internet. Roman Ashworth, brilliant trauma surgeon, notorious heartbreaker, and the man Port Charles has spent the last 2 seasons alternately worshipping and despising, stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes dropped to the child, then back to Delilah, then back to the child. The hallway went silent except for the rain. "Delilah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "how old is he?" She didn't answer. She turned to walk away. That was, of course, answer enough. What followed was 9 full minutes of the most riveting, raw, and emotionally devastating television General Hospital has produced in years. Roman followed her into an empty consultation room. Delilah set Caden down in his carrier. She crossed her arms. She stared at the floor. And then, in a scene that will be replayed in highlight reels for years to come, she finally said it. "You're his father, Roman. You've always been his father. I just didn't think you deserved to know." The reaction. Every character in Port Charles loses their mind. If you thought the confession itself was explosive, you were clearly not prepared for the fallout, and it seems neither was anyone in Port Charles. Within the hour, the news had ripped through the hospital like wildfire. Roman's ex-fiancée, Cassandra Voss, who just last week accepted his renewed proposal in a rooftop ceremony that the whole hospital attended, overheard Delilah's admission from just outside the cracked consultation room door. The camera stayed on Cassandra's face for a brutal, unblinking 15 seconds as the color drained out of it entirely. She didn't cry, she didn't scream, she simply reached up, removed the engagement ring from her finger, set it on the nurse's station counter without a word, and walked out of the building. Somewhere in the surgical wing, Chief of Staff Dr. Lenora Vance was informed by 3 separate people within the span of 12 minutes. Her response? She immediately called an emergency board meeting because Roman's contract specifically prohibits undisclosed conflicts of interest, and she's arguing, with characteristic ruthlessness, that a secret child with a colleague absolutely qualifies. Meanwhile, Delilah's mother, Gloria, who has been visiting Port Charles for the past 2 weeks under the guise of helping with the baby, was confronted in the hospital cafeteria by Roman's formidable aunt, Judge Helena Ashworth, who has apparently known about the pregnancy for months and chose to say absolutely nothing. That confrontation, conducted entirely in hushed but lethal tones over lukewarm hospital coffee, was perhaps the episode's most quietly vicious scene. Roman's secret: it gets so much worse. Just when viewers thought the episode had peaked, the final 20 minutes detonated a second bombshell that no one, not even the most obsessive fan theorists, saw coming. Because Roman Ashworth, it turns out, has not been truthful either. In a scene in the hospital parking garage, because all life-altering revelations in Port Charles happen in the parking garage, Roman was confronted by an unknown man in a dark overcoat. The man handed Roman a manila envelope. Roman opened it. His face went ashen. Inside, documents suggesting that Roman had been in contact with Delilah's estranged father, Victor Hargrove, the disgraced pharmaceutical magnate currently under federal investigation. The documents implied Roman had been feeding Victor information about Delilah's whereabouts for the better part of a year. Was Roman working with the man who has been terrorizing his own daughter this entire time? And if so, why? The camera pulled back. Roman stood alone between two cars, the envelope trembling in his hands. The rain kept falling. Cut to black. What this means going forward. The episode has set off a cascade of story dominoes that will clearly consume the next few weeks of Port Charles drama. Will Cassandra expose Roman? Will Delilah discover Roman's connection to her father, and what will that do to any possibility of co-parenting? Can Judge Helena be trusted, or is she playing an angle of her own? And who exactly is the man in the parking garage? Most pressingly, now that Roman Ashworth knows he has a son, what will he do about it? Fans have already flooded social media with reactions from pure devastation to gleeful chaos. "I've been saying Roman was the father since episode 4 of last season, and nobody believed me," wrote one viewer with what could only be described as deeply earned satisfaction. "Cassandra putting that ring down without a single word was the most cold-blooded thing I've ever seen on this show," wrote another. Sunday's episode of General Hospital wasn't just good television. It was a reminder of exactly why this show, after more than 60 years on the air, can still make millions of people stop what they're doing and stare at a screen with their hand over their mouth. Caden Hargrove has a father now. Port Charles will never be the same.